In Northern California, the elites gather in a sinister forest, far from the public eye. One of the darkest and most sinister ceremonies in the world takes place there. Its participants, politicians, businessmen, actors and philanthropists. A place so private that it is guarded by the army and secret services. If anyone in the public knew what is being done here, the American democratic order could fall. A ritual, a ceremony that gives political powers beyond imagination, but only if you manage to become a member of the Bohemian Grove. I'm Sean Rico, I'm from Buenos Aires, and I hate these secret societies. Imagine that you're a politician, you have the press harassing you all day. The public will criticize you and make thousands of memes every time you make a mistake. Entrepreneurs, international organizations, everything falling on your person. Somehow you need to lower the stress. You can't go to a little bar with your friends, or dance, or go to any public place where the paparazzis can see you. The slightest stumble can cause you a stain on your political career. Luckily, in the United States, there's a place of retirement that is perfect. Far from everything, far from everyone, where you can not only rest, but also move up in your political career. I'm talking about the Bohemian Grove, and to understand well about the Grove, let's go to its picturesque origins. Californian artists in the 1870s used to get together with each other, coffee, dancing, opera, parties, as a way to clarify ideas and think of new expressions of their art. One of those bohemians was Henry Edwards, a stage actor who announced to his fellow artists that he would be moving to New York to advance his career. On June 29, 1878, 100 Bohemians gathered in Redwoods at Samuel P. Taylor State Park for a nightly farewell party in Edwards' honor. Free-flowing liquor and a few Japanese lanterns lit up the festivities, and club members retired at the last minute to the modest comfort of their tents they had set up. They had had such a good time that this meeting was repeated the following year without Edwards and became the annual camp from Bohemian artists. Like any secret club, like Freemasonry, they wanted to start bringing more people and charge a membership. The problem is that not all artists have money. Some take years to earn their first dollar and others earn them after their death. It occurred to them to start inviting wealthy businessmen. The plan would be for these entrepreneurs to feel that they were now Bohemian artists, so they would start financing the projects of the true Bohemians. They declared the Moar Bulls National Forest a lifetime meeting place, and over the next few decades, club members purchased land surrounding the location up to the perimeter of the watershed in which it resides. More and more people joined the Bohemian Club. The problem is that they were no longer Bohemians, but people with money. 8 years after its founding, several founding members complained that the intellectual level of the meetings had dropped, that the camp had been commercialized, and it had become another investment site for the rich, that is, bankers, businessmen, and politicians. Basically, there was no longer talk of art, music, and poetry, only of business and money. The shock of attending the Bohemian is to meet with all these powerful people who are not only going to give you money in exchange for you to relax the policy in their favor, but they are going to mobilize their influence to take you to the White House. If you were smart enough, say the right words, and presented yourself in the best way, you can be chosen to speak at the altar of Bohemian Grove. This exam is called the Lakeside Speech. In 1950, Dwight Eisenhower had his turn to give his speech, and only 3 years later, he took office as president. Who noticed the importance of the speech was his vice president Richard Nixon, who had his opportunity to give the talk 17 years later. Nixon had already tried to be president, losing abysmal to Kennedy, so he did not arouse much confidence among the members. He prepared his speech for years. He knew from seeing Eisenhower that the only way to get to the White House was to give his best at the altar, and so it was. 2 years later, Nixon takes office as president. Nixon later wrote in his memoirs, I quote, "If I had to choose which talk gave me the most satisfaction in my political career, would be my lakeside speech at Bohemian Grove in July 1967. Despite having no press coverage or publicity, it was the first step on my path to the presidency." George Bush Sr. joined the club in 1973. His cabin mates were top executives at Bank of America and General Motors. Despite being a high-level member in another secret club, the Lodge Skull and Bones, it was not enough to be president. He needed the approval of the club, and he got it. 3 years later, he became director of the CIA, and 12 years later, he became the president of the country. Bush Sr. wanted the legacy, so he used the club and the famous speech to introduce his son, George W., and promised them that he was going to be the ideal candidate for all corporations. The reason why such a secret meeting is known to the public is thanks to two people. One was the journalist Alex Jones, who walked into a club meeting with a hidden camera and provided us with the only footage that exists so far. The other was Richard Nixon. That's right, remember I said that Nixon openly wrote about the speech he was most proud of was the one he made at Bohemian Grove? Well, the journalist went crazy wanting more information about the club. Nixon had also made public his desire to give a new speech to the club as president, and the press did not want to miss it and hoped to accompany him. The Bohemian Club is governed by a 15-man board of directors, elected from among the members by the vote of regular members only. Directors do very little of the day-to-day work. To carry out their wishes, they have a hired manager, who in turn has a large team of cooks, waiters, carpenters, and laborers. Like most organizations in the United States, the club is run by a set of semi-autonomous committees, and it is the job of the board of directors to appoint these committees. In this case, there are committees to organize the shows and plays, a committee for the maintenance of the grove, a restaurant committee to direct the dining facilities, a library committee, and a membership committee. Being a member of the Bohemian Club is not cheap. The membership is $25,000 per year, with a wait of between 5 to 10 years to join. You need to be someone important and famous, in television, politics, business, and finance, or an elite family, or you can join if an already established member invites you. Another fact, only men are allowed. Diverse artists also entertain the Bohemians, with songs that they do not usually play in their concerts, and exotic dances that they do not perform in theaters. All this without receiving a penny. Their payment is to have the honor of showing themselves before the club. They also invite dozens of prostitutes from nearby towns. Once inside, you will be able to witness the most important act of the club, the ritual of the cremation of care. At nightfall, several strange subjects dressed in red robes approach the lake with torches and also with an open coffin. As the spectators sit across the lake, the priest and their entourage continue beyond the altar to a sherry. Here the coffin is moved to the altar of care. The attention of the spectators is directed to the sanctuary of the owl. It is illuminated by a soft flame from the fraternity lamp at its base. Moments later, an off-stage choir of voices from the forest begins to sing. Then a spotlight illuminates a tree, and emerges from it a hamadryad, a spirit of the tree, whose life, according to Greek mythology, it is intimately linked with the tree in which it lives. The hamadryad begins to sing, telling the supplicants that beauty, strength, and peace are theirs as long as the trees of the grove are there. He sings from the halls of the temple of wood that are made for his delight, and implores that the Bohemians to burn the sorrows of yesterday, and to cast their pain into the fire, and be strong with the sacred trees and the spirits of the grove. Inside the coffin is a very realistic mannequin. Very realistic, maybe it is real? They call it the body of care, and it represents all the worries and obligations that this elite has to carry, but can now burn and eliminate. The great priestess has everything ready to begin his sacrifice and intones the mystical prayers. The owl in his leaf temple lets everyone within the grove be reverent before him. He pleads with the viewers to be inspired and amazed by their surroundings, nothing that this is the sanctuary of the Bohemians. Then invoke the club's motto, "Weaving spiders don't come here." It is supposed to warn members not to talk about businesses and worldly affairs, but only about the arts, literature, and other pleasures within the portals of the Bohemian. Addressing the coffin, the priest exclaims, "We will burn you once again tonight, and the flames that devour your effigy we will redesign. The summer solstice sets us free." The mannequin or man inside the coffin responds to the priest by saying, "I spit in your flames." At this response, the high priest falls to his knees and raises his arm to the great owl. "Oh, great symbol of all mortal wisdom, Bohemian owl, we beseech you, grant us your advice." The great owl speaks and declares that only the fire of the care lamp can burn the worries, the great enemy, the man of care. "Save the brotherhood, you damn man of care, disappear, disappear," concludes the great owl. The priest proceeds to light a torch with the fire of the care lamp and set fire to the coffin. The whole audience proceeds to shout, "Save the brotherhood, you damn man of care, disappear, disappear! The summer solstice will set us free." Then the music stops and the members proceed to hug, laugh and sing, and then continue with a great feast that concludes the sinister night. Once the camp is over, these influential men will return to their tasks, having made new contacts, new businesses, and having new elects in the government that will allow them an unlimited flow of money and also influence. The findings about elite ties with the Bohemian Grove led to a final consideration of the threats that drive power and free competition they claim to promote. They are perfectly connected and always weaving the networks to maintain their power without interruption.